So in this video, I'm going to actually show you how to create this illusion of light coming off this weapon and how to do a trigger so that the lights turn on and off as you leave a particular area. So I have my new scene here and I'm just going to pop myself an actor into it. So I've got somewhere to move around and walk from. I'm going to pull this quite a far back as well. So I've got a bit of walk around area before I begin. And then I'm going to actually change this autocannon so that it has some spotlight on it. Now you might be thinking, you go and grab these lights and you drop them into the scene, and although you can do it that way, I personally find it's a lot easier to add them through the blueprint and add script area. So it'll ask you to create a blueprint name. I'm just going to obviously stick to auto blueprint, and what you get is a window like this one here, and as you can see, it shows my autocannon in a viewport. I'm going to make that full screen, and then I can add different components to it. So I'm going to add a spotlight. And here we go, we've got a basic spotlight. So what I'm going to do next is just going to move that spotlight around. So I'm actually going to put this spotlight here on the scope. So it takes a bit of moving around to get things exactly where you want them, which is a bit of a pain, but once it's where you want it, it should be fine. Then I'm going to rotate it because obviously I want it kind of facing forward. And you'll see at the moment it's creating quite a wide beam. And I'm just going to pull that in a tiny bit by using the outer cone and really pulling it in. Remember, if this is a scope, I do want that scope to be very tight rather than flying outwards. Okay, I'm going to pull that a bit more. And because it's a scope, I'm going to set its lighting to red. Now, at the moment, it's not obviously easy to see, but that's partly because we're not in the right kind of viewing yet. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add a couple more spotlights. And these spotlights are basically going to go inside these barrels. So obviously I want this nice and tight inside this barrel. One thing I really hate about Unreal is it's so difficult to move things exactly where you want them because it makes big leaps sometimes. And sometimes you're best off just very carefully manipulating that yourself and trying to move it slowly. I tend to find it very frustrating to get it exactly where I want it. But there we go, I've managed to get it inside the barrel. I might move it back a tiny bit because I want it a bit deeper inside. And you can actually see with the direction that it's headed, it'll actually start giving a kind of light beam off it because it's a white light. I can set it back further in, but if I put it too far back inwards, I'm not getting any light at all. There we go, perfect. Now again, because this is a tight barrel, the light is going to be very heavily focused, so I'm going to reduce that angle quite a bit. And you can see here It's actually a bit too tight. That I do want it to sort of illuminate the barrel as it's to give the impression that as it's shooting outwards, it's really hitting it. So I do want that light. I'm even actually going to pull it further back into the barrel. Can you see? Now I'm going to take a copy of it. I'm going to move it downwards. Across and then along again. Because again, I want this thing right the way along inside this barrel. And there we go. And again, I'm going to pull it backwards because I really want to feel like it's going to illuminate that lower barrel there. And as I said, it's just unfortunate that you really do have to frustratingly fiddle around with its positioning to get it just right. Okay, I think that's probably just about right where I want it. There we go. I've got a nice glow coming off that barrel now. Okay, that's my basic lighting setup. So if I now head back into the main screen, you'll actually start to see when I deselect the objects that there's some glows coming off it. We're not getting a lot of glow off the top light at the moment, but as you can see, it's because its spotlight is so narrowly focused, it's not really hitting it. But that's not a major important thing because obviously it wouldn't normally illuminate itself, that kind of lighting. What it would do is it would illuminate anything it was pointing at later on. Right, now we've got to find a way to make this flick on and off. So now that I've actually got my autocannon set up with its lighting, I'm going to actually trigger it. So what I mean by that is I want the lights to turn on and off depending if something interacts near it. So not exactly on it, but in a particular area. So there's different versions of this. So we got like things like the box trigger. And it basically gives us a little box, and anything that walks into this box is going to trigger the lights. Of course, we have to do a bit of logic behind it. You don't have to go into full-blown coding to do this, fortunately. You can just use all of the easy functions and the drag and drop approach that I'll show you. I'm going to make this box a little bit bigger as well, so that I can really kind of play around with it. So if I were to just give it a slight scaling in each direction, I want it more wide than anything else. There we go. I've now got a basic box trigger to play around with. Okay, so now I've got my trigger box and all the lighting done, I can now set all of that lighting turned off to begin with. To do that, it's dead simple. Open Blueprint Editor, and you're going to use this event begin play. What you need to do basically is set the visibility of all those lights to off to begin with. So just select one of them and you'll get the spotlight visibility. Make sure it's turned off. Now, good thing is, I don't have to do that for every single one. I can just get the other spotlights and link them into the same function here. And I can quite happily link them. And what I'm going to do with this event here is I'm going to link it in. Now, when I save that and head back over here and press play, you can see I've now got no lighting whatsoever. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish this by triggering it when the actor moves into this box. So this is, first of all, I'm going to select the autocannon. Going to open the level blueprint. Now, basically, because I've got the autocannon selected, when I right click and create a reference to it, I can then start adding the triggers to the spotlight. So I want to set the visibility, and I'm going to click yeah, it's enabled. And because all of the spotlights are the same type of object, they can all use the same visibility function. So I don't have to create one for each one. Now, from there, I need to actually make it so the trigger box works. So I'm going to select the trigger box. I'm going to right click and then I'm going to say on actor, and these are our collisions. So I'm going to need an actor begins an overlap, and you can see because I had trigger box selected, it's going to have trigger box there, and I shall link it up to this one. I'm going to then create a new visibility just by copying that, and I'm going to have this to off. Now again, I can make my life quite easy by just pulling these into here. So although it can get a bit spaghetti junction, which isn't great, it does allow me to simplify my actual event graph. Okay. From there, I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to, again, right click. I'm going to go on actor, and it'll give me the end overlap option of collisions. End overlap pops up to the set visibility, and this should now actually work as a trigger. So if I play, and I start moving my actor around, as soon as I hit that trigger box, I've got the lights flicking on and off. And there we go. That is how we actually create a really basic kind of trigger mechanism.